You are lying on your bed, scrolling on Instagram. Another engagement announcement, another wedding, another baby shower. You smile, you leave a heart emoji, and you genuinely feel happy for them. But then a tiny voice whispers, "Why is everyone moving forward except me?" You try to ignore it, but it shows up again in family gatherings, at weddings when someone asks you, "When are you getting married?" And suddenly, being single feels less like a relationship status and more like a problem that needs to be solved now. If you are in your 30s and still single, you probably feel a massive weight on your shoulders. Society looks at you like a missing piece of the puzzle. Your married friends look at you with pity, and your family keep asking, when are you finally settling? And the truth is, we have been conditioned to believe that staying single past 30 means that we are falling behind. We were told that it was a failure, but that is a fat out lie. Because single in your 30s is actually the ultimate building season. It is the secret window where you have the time, energy, and freedom to build your dream life, to build your own brand and fix your inner world. I know this because 3 years ago, my personal life was a complete struggle. I had no idea how to set boundaries or handle my own emotions. If I jumped into marriage back then, it would have been a disaster. But I took the time to step back, get therapy, and work on myself. And now I know exactly who I am, and I'm going to show you how to use this phase of your life as a launching pad. As women, we are natural nurturers. We love taking care of the people we love. We support them, we encourage them, we comfort them, and we help them grow. There is something beautiful about seeing the people around us thrive. And many of us pour our energy naturally into that. When a woman enters a relationship, that nurturing energy naturally starts flowing into different places towards her husband, towards her children, towards her home, towards the people she actually loves. Again, there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, it is one of the beautiful things about being a woman. But think about what happens when you are single. All that energy is still yours. 100%. Instead of putting it into a husband, children, or a household, you have a rare opportunity to pour all that energy into creating the life that you have always dreamed of. And I think many women underestimate how powerful this season is. Because instead of seeing being single as a season of luck, what if you started looking at it as a season of concentration? A season where your attention is not pulled into 10 different directions. A season when you can wake up every day and ask yourself, what do I want to build? Maybe it's a business, maybe it's a personal brand, maybe it's a YouTube channel. Maybe it is financial freedom. Maybe it is a skill that you have always wanted to master. Maybe it is a version of you have been trying to become for years. Whatever it is, this season gives you something incredible: undivided focus. And most successful things are not built because someone had more talent to build it. It was built because that person had more focus, more energy, and was able to be consistent and show up day after day. And now you have an opportunity that many people wish they had more of. You have time, you have flexibility, and you have freedom. You have the space to experiment, to make mistakes, and do it again. Think about some of the women you admire: the entrepreneurs, the creators, the business owners, the women who built something meaningful. Many of them created the foundation for their success in a season where they had less responsibilities competing for their attention. And that's why I believe being single in your 30s can be the most powerful building season in your life. Because you are not just waiting for a future, you are creating it. Every course you take, every skill you learn, every dollar you save, every piece of content you create, every step you take toward your goals is a gift for your future self. So instead of asking, why am I still single? Maybe you ask yourself a different question. If this season is giving me the freedom to build anything I want, what do I want to build? But building the foundation for your success means nothing if you keep letting toxic people into your life. Which brings us to the mirror principle. One of the greatest gifts about being single in your 30s is that it gives you the space to understand yourself on a much deeper level. Because the truth is, Many of us spend years trying to find the right person without understanding why we keep choosing the wrong ones. And that is a difficult question to ask yourself. Why do I end up in relationships where my needs are not met? Why do I ignore red flags? Why do I struggle to speak when something hurts me? Why do I keep settling for less than I deserve? These questions have less to do with other people and more to do with ourselves. Many of the patterns we take into adult relationships were formed long before we started dating. Maybe you grew up believing that love had to be earned. Maybe you learned to keep the peace at all costs. Maybe you became a people pleaser because being loved felt safer than being authentic. Maybe you learned to ignore your own needs because everyone else's needs always came first. Then we become adults and then we wonder why we struggle to set boundaries. We wonder why we feel guilty when we say no. We wonder why do we keep attracting toxic people into our lives. We wonder why we stay long in situations that hurt us. The reality is, unresolved wounds don't just disappear because we got older. They often follow us directly into our relationships. And that's why I believe that your single season can be your emotional training ground. A season where you finally stop running on autopilot. A season where you become curious about yourself. A season where you start asking, why am I attracted to certain people? Why do I feel uncomfortable when someone treats me well? Why do I keep chasing people who cannot meet my emotional needs? Why do I abandon myself to keep other people happy? These are powerful questions, and sometimes the answer leads us to wounds that need healing. For me, one of the biggest realizations was that I was choosing partners not from what I needed. I was choosing based on what I thought I should want, what the society told me, what looked good on paper, what other people expected. But healing changes your perspective. As you become more self aware, your standards become clearer, your deal breakers become clearer, your values become clearer. You stop looking at relationships from the lens of fear. You stop asking, will they choose me? And you start asking, who will fit the life that I'm building? And that is a completely different mindset. Because healthy relationships are not built by abandoning yourself to please others. They are built by knowing yourself enough to recognize who deserves a seat in your life. And that's why this season matters so much. Not because you are waiting for the right person to arrive, but because you are becoming the type of person that recognizes them when they do. Because the truth is, your partner is a direct reflection of the current level of your self-respect. And this single season is your emotional boot camp. It is this time to sit down with your therapist. It is the time to look your inner child in the eyes and start healing those wounds. Learn what real boundaries sound like. Because the truth is, you need to know your absolute deal breakers, your non-negotiables, before you let anyone in. And when you do this inner work, you don't just save yourself from pain, but you save the next generation. Take a moment to think about families around you. Not the perfect families people show on social media, the real ones. The families in which conflict is avoided rather than resolved. The families where children grow up walking on eggshells because they don't know which mood their parents will be in. The families where the same arguments seem to repeat from one generation to the next. When you look closely, you begin to notice something. Many people don't intentionally pass pain down to their children. They simply pass down what was passed down to them. The person who grows up feeling unheard now struggles with communication. The person who never felt safe to express their emotions now shuts down during conflicts. The person who grew up around unhealthy relationships now repeats the same patterns unconsciously. Most people don't wake up with the intention to pass down the pain to their children. It happens because they never had the time to stop, reflect, and heal. And so they move from childhood into adulthood, into marriage, into parenthood with the same carriage, carrying the same wounds the entire way. Most people are doing the best they can. But sometimes the best they can is still limited by the wounds they never had the time to heal. But what if your story could be different? What if this season of being single is giving you something far more valuable than you realize. What if it's giving you the chance to become the cycle breaker in your family? Because every therapy session, every difficult conversation, every boundary you have learned to set, every old wound you have faced instead of avoided, every lesson you have learned about yourself, it doesn't end up with you. It changes the future. One day, if you decide to have children, they will not receive the version of you that was lost, confused, and operating from old pain. They will receive the version of you that took the time to grow, the version of you that understands herself, the version of you that has done the hard work. And that changes everything. Because when you have spent years healing, you choose differently. You choose friends differently. You choose relationships differently. And yes, you choose your husband differently. Not from loneliness, not from pressure, not because you are afraid that you are running out of time, but because you genuinely know what's right for you. Imagine how different your future family becomes just because of that one decision. Imagine building a home with someone you choose from clarity instead of fear. Imagine raising children in an environment shaped by intention instead of old wounds. Imagine your children growing up with a mother who already did the inner work she needed to do. A mother who understands boundaries, a mother who knows her worth, a mother who doesn't need to pass down the pain she inherited because she has done the inner work. And that is the part that nobody talks about. People see a woman single in her 30s and think she's waiting for life to begin. Or what they don't see is that she might be building the foundation for an entirely different future. A healthier marriage, a healthier family, a healthier generation after her. And that's why I don't see this season as a curse. I see it as a blessing. Because sometimes the greatest gift you can give your children is the healing you do before they ever arrive. So instead of looking at your 30s as a race that you are losing or a time that you have to secure a partner as fast as possible, look at it as an opportunity for you to build the life you are dreaming of, lay the foundations, do the inner work, and break the generational cycles of trauma. You are not lagging behind, you are building a solid rock foundation. And once you secure your identity, your career, and your mental health, you will naturally attract a partner that matches that high frequency. If you want to know how close you are to attracting the partner of your dreams, watch this video next. See you there.